Hello and greetings everyone. In this video today, by the way, my videos are unscripted and unedited, so sorry for that. I wanted to talk about Star Wars and the potential of storytelling, because I kinda touched on it a little when I talked about why you should care about Star Wars, but the real cool thing about the Star Wars galaxy, the Star Wars universe, is that it has, technically speaking, infinite potential for storytelling. Now, that can be said about multiple franchises because, technically speaking, as at the very moment that your franchise has a multiverse in it, and Star Wars does have a multiverse in it, you can tell infinite stories because in the multiverse, literally anything can happen. You can have anything happen in one of the many universes of the multiverse. Infinite storytelling potential for any franchise that has that. However, I think that is very lame and a very poor excuse, because multiverses also tend to function completely differently from each other. So technically speaking, Star Wars, the Marvel Universe, Game of Thrones, whatever, could all be different multiverses. And technically speaking, that's what the multiverse is. So basically any franchise to ever exist that has a multiverse is connected to any other franchise that has a multiverse, like D&D and Pathfinder and whatnot. So I think that's super lazy. Star Wars doesn't need that. I don't need to travel to a multiverse or anything, which by the way is super stupid to begin with, but you don't need that in Star Wars to tell pretty much all of the stories, because the way the Force works and the way the galaxy works, anything is possible. I give you a few examples what I mean by that. Let's start with the basics. The galaxy of Star Wars was artificially created by super advanced, magical, highly technological, advanced creatures, the Celestials. That's the reason why the Star Wars galaxy is so far removed from any natural occurring galaxy that we know of. Why everything works different in Star Wars, because it was artificially created, as in the alignment of certain black holes that surround prison worlds, the weird distortions that are out there in space, the weird creatures, the weird planets, the reason why so many alien species in Star Wars look like humans, because they are all created from the same genetic blueprint. There is so many things happening in Star Wars that are due to the galaxy being artificially made. It's why there's life on basically every single planet you can go to, even on meteor, even on asteroids there is life. It's why asteroid belts are so insanely dense, nowhere near real life. It's why there's sound in space, goddammit, because space in Star Wars isn't a vacuum, and that's all because it is artificially created by a Type 3 civilization. If you don't know that, that's another topic. Google NASA type of civilizations or something. Like, we are currently in the real world a Type 0 civilization. The New Republic would probably be counted as a Type 1 civilization. The highest that the Empire ever got, like not the movie Empire, the Sith Empire, would be a Type 2 civilization, and Type 3 civilizations are basically gods. More or less. They're so technologically advanced they can create galaxies, and that's what happened here. And that's why I say that anything can happen in Star Wars, because again, it was artificially created. Kashyyyk was a terraforming experiment that went a little bit out of hand, as example. You have so many planets that were artificially altered, and by many civilizations, that that we have species that were once highly advanced Type 2 civilization type civilizations, cultures, that devolved back into being nothing more than literal animals, like even walking on all fours again. We have animals evolving into super highly intelligent advanced species. We have all kinds of things happening in Star Wars, and the reason why I'm convinced that Star Wars has the most storytelling potential of all universes I'm aware of is because the galaxy is artificially created and most of it is unknown. I've made 2 videos on what you probably don't know about Star Wars and what you're missing out on, and I haven't even mentioned that all of these 5 decades of world building by multiple companies and writers, all of the hundreds of characters that we have with great fantastic stories, all of the dozens of dark side orders, even the Sith, there is not even one Sith order, there is I think 6 or 7 iterations in canon of the Sith order that are all different from each other. But the most important thing is that due to the galaxy being handcrafted, there is, by basically divine beings, you can have any world you like in any state you want, and it would work in Star Wars. The Force isn't even the only cosmic scale power that exists canonically in Star Wars. It's just one out of multiple that, again, the Celestials created. The Dark Father created the dark side, and there's just many layers to this. So even if you don't want to use the Force in Star Wars, outright magic or any magical system you can think of could exist in Star Wars as one of these other cosmic powers that just never were really delved into in Star Wars. That could happen. You can have any magical system in Star Wars and it would not violate the rules of the Star Wars galaxy. You can have planets that nobody ever visited, because how space travel works in Star Wars is that there used to be a civilization that created hyperlanes between planets, which is basically a highway between planets. In Star Wars you don't use light speed or beyond light speed drives or anything. What you do is, like Mass Effect, have certain planets connected through a network and you can only go to those planets. That's why the vast majority of the galaxy is not even explored yet. Like the biggest region of the galaxy, the by far biggest region of the galaxy, is the so-called unknown territories. Now, it's not completely unknown. We know that the Triss Ascendancy is there. We know that their big opponents, the Grisics, I think it is, are out there. We know that there is stuff beyond that. We know that there's other galaxies where the Yusang Wong come from, as example. We know that, which might also have been created by the Celestials. We don't know. We know that there is the wild space where basically there are no hyperlanes too. That is within the rather center of the galaxy, and we just don't know anything about it because there are no hyperlanes leading there, though there could have been, because hyperlanes can be destroyed and they also can just decay, and as a result of that there may be planets of whatever you want there. To give you a few examples, and there's the Outer Rim worlds, which are also often only mentioned, and many of them are not even explored at all. You can have any setting set within the Star Wars galaxy and it would work. The Witcher, as example. The Witcher could take place in Star Wars. How so? Witcher science, normal standard force powers. The sorcerers of the Witcher, well, Sith sorcery, there you go. All the enchantments on blades and stuff, Sith alchemy, which is, by the way, not limited to the Sith. It's just named after them because they are most prominent users of that. The monsters created by Sith alchemy. You can have a planet with elves and vampires and whatnot in Star Wars, just like the Witcher universe in Star Wars, no problem. That could be one of the planets in the unknown regions or in wild space. We don't know. It could be there. There's no reason why this couldn't exist. We have Stone Age cultures in Star Wars existing right next to spacefaring civilizations. That works. I mean, in the real world we have Stone Age people living more or less next door to, well, modern technology people. Works. There is reasons to explain. There is ways to explain that. You could have medieval fantasy style setting planets, no problem. Just like D&D could totally take place like Faerun and stuff. Like it could totally be inside of the Star Wars galaxy. You can basically put cyberpunk on a planet. Like the entire cyberpunk setting could be on a planet or multiple planets as you liked. It could exist in the Star Wars universe. There's no reason why that couldn't happen. And it wouldn't have been influenced by Star Wars as a greater thing. So you don't need to have lightsabers or the Force or anything. Could not be, because there's even areas in space like the Chiss ascendancy space where force sensitivity is suppressed, and that could explain why the humans who populate your cyberpunk world don't have any force abilities whatsoever, because the world is somehow blocked from it, what the Celestials did. Earth, like everything that's happening in the real world, is technically speaking set in the Star Wars universe with the long time ago galaxy far away stuff. So anything that happens on Earth, any franchise like World of Darkness that takes place on Earth, is in Star Wars already. You can have Realms of Arcania, or basically really any franchise you want. You can have the Marvel Mutants. You can have basically the entire mutant thing, the X-Men thing, happen in Star Wars without any contradiction of Star Wars lore. It would work perfectly. There is so much that Sith Alchemy can do. Why not the Hulk? Why not Iceman? Works just perfectly. You can have antique settings like if you're into video games, Titan Quest or God of War, happening inside of Star Wars. Actually, God of War would work perfectly within the setting of Star Wars, with the enchanted weapons and all. Sith Alchemy blades, as example, his kinda signature weapons. You can have crime settings in Star Wars. You can have horror settings in Star Wars. Did you know that most of the Cthulhu stuff exists within Star Wars as well? And Star Wars has unique horror creatures that don't exist in other franchises. You have were creatures like werewolves and something inside of Star Wars. You have there's no reason why you couldn't have, say, elves. I mean, there are so many alien species looking like humans. Why not elves as well? You can set Lord of the Rings might very well have taken place, or is taking place inside the Star Wars framework. There is no problem with that at all. Indeed, Morgoth is so close to the Dark Father that the Dark Father might actually be another name for Morgoth, if you know Lord of the Rings. Might be, we don't know. The Celestials and the divine beings like that created the Astari in Lord of the Rings, maybe one of the same things. Like it makes sense. It totally could be the case. It would explain a lot of things. If you know how many force powers there are, there's no reason why Gandalf's cool spells aren't just force powers. Like, why not? Could work. Again, you could set literally any story. You can have antiquity, Stone Age. You can have Star Trek take place inside of Star Wars, because if Star Trek takes place in the unknown regions, which it might, we don't know, it would explain a lot of things that happen in Star Trek, including the Q species, which would basically be force using peoples, and a lot of things that Gaiman does now suddenly make sense as well. Could totally happen. You could you can have Game of Thrones take place on a planet inside the galaxy of Star Wars. Doesn't matter what it is, it can legitimately take place inside the Star Wars galaxy as some celestial science project in middle school or something. Could happen. There is no reason why it couldn't. I mean, the real world reason why it isn't actually canon, that all of this can happen, is because copyrights. But there's no in-lore reason why this couldn't happen. There's no in-world reason why these things wouldn't be able to be done that way. Now, the other way around, things quite often don't work out at all. But within Star Wars, no problem whatsoever. Pretty much anything, any franchise you can think of could happen within Star Wars, with no exception that I can think of right now. Maybe there is one, but I don't really see a single setting that couldn't take place in Star Wars. Super Mario could take place in Star Wars with force jump and stuff like that. Like, no reason why it couldn't happen. And there's so much storytelling potential. Like even World of Warcraft could take place within Star Wars. There's no reason why it wouldn't. Could be. You could be setting it. It would even make a little bit more sense because Draenei are a spacefaring civilization, and let's be honest, the Manari look kinda like Sith. Like not exactly, but red skin, tentacles. Sure, they have hoofs and horns, which the original Sith didn't have, but close enough. I mean, given that most alien species in Star Wars look alike because they were created from the same blueprint with minor alterations, Manari Sith could be the same thing. It's basically just Sith with hoofs and horns. So why not? Sure. All of this could happen. I don't think that there is any era that you can role play or write about or whatever that wouldn't be fitting within the Star Wars framework. I mean, if you want to do super futuristic, super highly technological advanced stuff, we already had the Celestials and the Rakada, who would both qualify as Type 3 civilizations, and we don't know if there were civilizations before the Rakada, I mean, except the Celestials, but between the Celestials and the Rakada there could be millions of years passing where entire Type 3, Type 2 or Type 3 civilizations could have come into existence and faded, and we don't know anything about them. You could set your setting after the official ending of the Star Wars timeline, which is I think about 1,000 years after Luke Skywalker's death or something, is the last era that we actually have material on. You could set it beyond that. Maybe the galaxy finally gets an uptick and moves forward instead of backward all the time. There's many ways to do that. You can have a planet that is whatever you want. If you like Avowed, if you like Dragon Age, I don't care. You can have a planet where this is the thing. You can have I don't know, Halo, Mass Effect. All of that works within the framework. Not Total War, Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy both work perfectly within the Star Wars framework. There's no reason why that couldn't happen. Maybe it is in the year 40,000 of the Star Wars galaxy, because currently we have, I think, 10 or 15,000 years. So who knows what's 30,000 years later. That might be Warhammer 40k. There's no reason why it couldn't. Makes perfect sense. Even the Orcs magic makes sense if you allow for other cosmic forces than the Force. Everything like that could be done. You can have any time period. You can have full-on medieval, feudal Japan stories set in Star Wars, no problem, because there's just so many planets where stuff can be done, and that we simply don't know anything about. And they might be so isolated from the galaxy in the unknown regions or in wild space that nobody ever traveled there, and nobody doesn't even know that that exists. It's how the writers in Star Wars actually do more and more stuff that's completely unknown in Star Wars, because somebody travels to some place the first time ever. That happens, and then introduces a whole lot of new things to Star Wars. Why not make your own planet where you have whatever you like? There's no reason why it couldn't happen. You can have literally everything within Star Wars. And the picture that I'm showing you right here, there's so much Star Wars role-playing. I'm not sure if you guys are aware that this D6 system, that there is multiple role-playing books and adventures and everything, just like D&D campaigns on Star Wars. I mean, it's not super popular, but it's there and it has its fan base. And the Star Wars role-playing community is significantly large. It's not the largest, but it's definitely one of the bigger communities, definitely bigger than many smaller projects like Starfinder, as example. Or Pathfinder for that matter, but it's definitely there. You have role-playing communities within the Star Wars MMO, MMOs, which is Galaxies, which still exists as a private server, and like Legacy, you have a huge role-playing community, obviously, in Old Republic, the MMO. You can do a lot of role-playing there. You can do pen and paper tabletop role-play. You can do all kinds of LARP events. That is rather popular with Star Wars. There's lots of that happening. You can just dream about it and write your own books and stories like so many fans do. Do you know how many fan movies there exist? I am honest, I'm willing to bet that no other franchise has anywhere near the amount of fan products than Star Wars. Like, you have so many fans creating movies about new characters, new planets, new species, new whatever. There is so much in that regard. As example, what I'm showing off right here is a picture from the role play that me and my wife have, and there's just so much that you can do within Star Wars. Like, one of the reasons why the Sith species was kind of went extinct is because many species within Star Wars can interbreed with each other, and some have more genetically dominant genes than others. So basically the main reason why the Sith species didn't survive into the Luke era is because they were simply outbred by humans. That's kind of what happened in real world with Neanderthals. In this case, my wife and I have two Sith as player characters, and this little image there is the daughter that the two conceived. And I think it's pretty nice artwork. It's pretty well done. It's, by the way, AI artwork, and I think it looks really good overall. It even made up a story and everything for their offspring. Now, our characters are, I'd say, rather fleshed out, and as example, the title Darth is usually reserved for Sith that have one way or more multiple ways to cheat death, because the title of Darth literally means he who conquered death, and it's not a rank within the Sith order as many of the fans believe it is, because of the movies basically. But the title Darth is really only for Sith, no matter their power level, no matter their actual political rank. It's a title for those who have found at least one way to survive beyond the natural limits. You have, say, Darth Nihilus eating the life force of other creatures to sustain and prolong his own life. Essence transfer is the typical, most common way. By basically, if your body gets severely injured or old, you just take over somebody else's body. You have, say, Darth Adendu, literally just became a zombie, fully aware. You have Darth Sion, who is so stubborn that he refuses to die no matter what condition his body is in. You have Darth Revan, who willed himself back to life. You have Darth Vitiate, who managed to prolong his life with Sith rituals. You have some Sith that achieved the ability to become Force ghosts and sustain their Force abilities, their influence over the physical realm, and their personality way beyond death. They're technically dead, they're technically spiritual entities without a body, but they're still out there influencing the galaxy. They're still doing stuff, so they count as Darths as well. And my character here did do a completely different approach, which I think is unique. At least I'm not aware that anyone ever did that before, using some force powers which he mastered to the max to prolong his life. Now, the most important of these is Force Freeze, combined with cryokinesis, combined with hibernation, or the stronger form of hibernation, which name is I just can't pronounce. It's a weird one. Anyway, with these combined, he managed to control his body's cells so well that he literally just stops decaying. He literally just stops aging. he managed to use force freeze in a way that it affects his own cells to in a degree that he can still move and act and do everything, but his cells don't age. And that's how he, while staying within the same body, can technically live for millennia until he is forcefully destroyed by some occurrence. But he's technically speaking immortal because he just doesn't age anymore, which is similar to what Darth Andedu did, just that Darth Andedu zombified himself. So similar to that, kind of, just that he is still fully alive and not in a decaying body. So that the force needs to animate. He is just slowing his, well, not even slowing his physical processes, he just halts aging of his cells, which, by the way, is not a new concept. It's just the use of force powers that's unique to achieve that. And as I said, there's so many cool storytelling things that you can do within Star Wars. If you are a dungeon master, there is stories. You can do Star Wars without any force sensitives or any force powers. There's no need for that. There's so many cool stories and campaigns, official campaigns, that don't allow force sensitive characters, because you can have fun with Star Wars as a stormtrooper, as a Republican soldier, as a clone trooper, as a Sith trooper, as an agent, an assassin, whatever, as a bounty hunter, as a criminal, as a regular person. There's so many ways to enjoy Star Wars. You can tell Star Wars stories that are super powerful, magic, high fantasy, weird creatures, horror, whatever. You can have completely down-to-earth normal stories with just normal people doing normal things on normal planets. You can tell stories all across the board in Star Wars, and it's still Star Wars, and there's no problem. Indeed, if you look at the official numbers, the galaxy, given how many people are in the galaxy, and that there's only about 10,000 Jedi in Yoda's time, like 10,000 Jedi, that's like 0.0000000000000.1% of the population. So when you are alive in the Star Wars universe as a normal person, your chance of ever encountering a Jedi in your entire life is lower, much lower in fact, than encountering Bill Gates in real life on this planet, because the chances of that are infinite, not infinitely, but much higher. It's way more likely that you will run into, I don't know, Keanu Reeves or into, I don't know. It's more likely that you run into Kim Jong-il, the North Korea guy, than it is that you run into a Jedi in Star Wars. So the vast majority of the galaxy lives completely without ever encountering a Jedi at all, ever. Same for the Sith. Force sensitives in Star Wars are relatively rare, and the vast majority of the galaxy's population lives their entire lives without ever interacting with a force sensitive whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. But if you want to, you can go the exact different route and play someone who has the unfortunate time to having to deal with force sensitives all the freaking time. That can also happen. Or you can be a force sensitive. You can have any power level, like force sensitivity powers go from, oh, I have heightened reflexes, to I explode star systems with my will. There is a lot of things that you can do. You can have low fantasy settings or no fantasy settings. You can have super high fantasy settings. You can have sci-fi settings. You can have very low technology settings. You can have you can do survival stories. You can, because there's many cool planets for survival, like Kashyyyk is, as example, a great planet to do a survival game in, but there's other planets that could be done as well. I think one of the toughest to survive would be Korriban or Illum maybe. So there's many cool planets that you could explore and go in depth and just have fun with. And there is so many lost civilizations and artifacts. You can make up whatever you want, and it fits inside Star Wars. Now I think I'm just going on to ramble. You know what? League of Legends could exist in Star Wars. just putting it out there. There's no reason why Runeterra couldn't exist within Star Wars. Anyway, I think I've gone on for way too long. Oh, mythological settings. That's actually one. Sorry, but that's actually one that I thought of myself. What if the gods of various pantheons on Earth are just Force users that traveled here? What if Zeus, who, like the Greek god of head god of the pantheon, the one who throws lightning, Force lightning anyone? Maybe he was just a Sith Lord. I mean, would kind of fit his character if you look at how he treats people, his wife, and basically anyone. Would make sense. You can have the Norse gods be Force users. There's no reason why that couldn't happen. You can have basically any religion turn out to be just worshipping a Force user, because on Earth the Force is unknown, and if someone arrives here having Force powers, obviously they are a god. That could work. There's just so many things that happen and can work, and it would also explain the mortality of many pantheons in the polytheistic religions. Anyway, I'm going on for way too long, so have a nice day, and may the Force be with you.